Radiant team pick.
Gentlemen, hello and welcome back to the ESL One Manila. We're taking a look here at the Filipino qualifiers, game number 4. And I gotta say, in these grand finals, it's been a real pleasure so far. Each game has had its own sort of feel and unique moments, and it's just been a great time to behold. I'm Lyrical Dota, joined today by Scant. Sir, we're seeing a couple of things that are slightly different. TNC, they had second pick, so because of that, they're going to have to ban out the Nature's Prophet this time, which leaves open the Bounty Hunter. Do you think this is something that Mineski might want to go for?
I mean, yeah, it's a hero that they like, but at the same time, TNC been banning Bounty Hunter, and it's kind of like the main reason to ban that hero is to protect your mid lane. The mid lane's been getting destroyed every game anyway, so you know, if we're gonna lose our mid lane, why not just give them the Bounty Hunter and get advantage somewhere else maybe? Mix things up either way. I think it makes sense that they ban the Nature's Prophet. I think it's correct to not give it away. Even though Mineski won against it, I didn't think either team really should be comfortable giving it away. And Mineski do first pick the Bounty Hunter, and this is, I mean, I spoke earlier on in the series about how I think TNC had the position of their drafts are maybe stronger but also more predictable, and Mineski could work around them. And this kind of shifts that dynamic, where I think TNC would have expected the first pick Bounty Hunter, and get to draft from a position of, we know what you're going to do, let's come up with a plan to beat it. So, interested to see what their plan is, although it might not be revealed in the first 2 picks, because they might just take priority heroes anyway before revealing what they want to do to the bounty itself.
Reserve time.
It feels like at least it's a calculated giveaway, and because of that, you know, they come into it, they have an answer for what they want to run. They're going to take the Enchantress and then the Lone Druid. So pretty good there from the start. I will say that these are still both heroes, and I get so concerned when teams don't draft a ton of wave clear. Enchantress does have a decent amount just by virtue of being able to have and summon up a lot of creeps that can kind of spam out spells from there. But I do have to say that I've been getting more and more worried when we see Lone Druids picked with another hero that I feel like is a little bit greedy, just because of how often teams have just been pressured and the prevalence of that Drow Ranger. Is there any chance that we see Mineski try and go for like a super all-out push strat in spite of this Bounty Hunter here?
It's possible. It's not that likely. It's probably less likely now that they've got the OD as well. The OD is this is like, again, so you have an OD and a Bounty Hunter, you ban out the Viper right away, and immediately they're eliminating ways that Teehee could have a landing stage yet again. And this has been like the formula for success, I think, for the entire series that Mineski figured out. This is actually like a trend in modern Dota that a lot of teams. I think there was a match where the match where EG got knocked out by Liquid at the Shanghai Major. There was one game where Sumail was just hardly focused out of the game. The first match the Fnatic played in the main events of the Shanghai Major, same thing. Midwine just got horribly played out of the game. I feel like there's a growing trend of a lot of teams that function in a way that depends on expecting their mid player to be so stable and such a high level player that sort of no matter what you throw at them, they'll still do quite well. And occasionally what you do is you find teams that prepare ways to invert that dynamic and say, actually, we're going to make sure this player just does not have a good game. And a lot of the time, the teams that have been so dependent on their mid player having a great game really just do crumble underneath that. So I actually completely respect Mineski going for the same kind of approach. Obviously, the OD could still be safe lane, but I think we should expect this to be mid, because I think it just makes sense if you have an OD and a bounty, you ban out the Viper. It's really difficult to think of a hero for Teehee to take mid, especially a hero that's one of the heroes that he usually plays, which are sort of like pseudo carry heroes.
Yeah, well, and I guess that also, considering that's going to be the case, that it's going to be such a hard lane, do you think about just like sacking it to some extent and putting them on something that just needs to get some amount of experience? Like occasionally we've seen heroes or teams go back for like a Nyx assassin in the mid lane just to be able to like survive and try and play it like super safe. I don't think it's necessarily the greatest in the world, but maybe another hero that works in a way where they don't have to get a ton of farm. Like, because I feel like the other option that people have sometimes gone for is like a Puck in the mid lane to go up against it, but that doesn't really work because Puck needs to get the farm up for a quick blink dagger, I feel like.
Yeah, the thing is that Teehee for the longest time has been a player who plays carry heroes in mid lane. That's what he does. That's just like, you know.
Uh-oh. I think we lost him again, guys. I think we're no longer going to be getting knowledge bomb dropped down upon us from Scant. Unfortunately, his computer is revolting right now. This is the French Revolution, but it's just happening in Scant's living room. So sorry about that, but we'll be able to continue up the broadcast as we're waiting for him to connect back again. It's going to be, as we mentioned, the OD. And, you know, I was a little bit interested. I was about to bring this up to our buddy when he ended up getting dropped out. The Drow Ranger band, they're a little bit worried about it themselves. And I think that this sort of harkens the idea that, all right, you know what, we're going to let you get the Venge, but we're like, because what could have happened here is TNC would have been able to pick the Venge if they didn't ban the Drow. And then they would have had the option of going Drow 4th, which is like terrifying. And then, you know, if you're Mineski, you have to respond to the Venge pick thinking about the Drow that's going to happen next. But so this way, it's kind of like taking two heroes out of the pool, both the Drow Ranger herself, but also the hero that you might have to run in case they run the Drow. So I really like that. It's going to be the Venge taken. They're perfectly fine with that. That leads into a Slardar. You've got this ability to keep true sight on people, a nice initiation that can come out. This could end up even being the safe lane Slardar that we've seen make some appearances, where you even end up going for like Tranquil Boots and then Blink Dagger immediately, and then you can just roam around and be a setup for stun for the OD. I don't know if that's what it's going to end up being, but it's certainly an option. And then Jakiro taken for TNC, followed up by the Winter Wyvern. Very, very cool choice there. And Scan, I feel like I'm hearing you again. Are you back, buddy?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't even realize I was gone. I actually spoke for so long about TNC, about Tihi's Jakiro, and how, like, I don't know if you heard the part where I was saying that he normally plays carries in the mid lane, and this is like the one non-carry that he plays in the mid lane, and has a lot recently been playing Jakiro mid every time they went for a strat. We spoke about in game 2 how Mineski actually banned it out. So it's quite interesting to me that Mineski didn't ban it out this time. They did expect a push strategy. They decided they'd rather ban the Viper than the Drow, and the Drow is obviously a go-to for TNC, but the Viper maybe less of a T hero than the Jakiro. So I mean, that if TNC's push ends up working, Mineski might regret having left in the Jakiro, knowing full well that that's a hero that T often plays in those push strategies.
Well, and they go back for this Juggernaut here as well, which definitely sort of doubles down upon that. It's that hero that you pick for the untargetability and sort of the sustain throughout a push there with the healing ward. I will say I love the Winter Wyvern. The big problem that you might end up running into here is getting enough levels up where she becomes relevant. And I feel like Winter Wyvern's had, you know, a very well documented decline in terms of her usability and survivability in lanes. And I really feel like this is a large part just because she's good against push drafts, and push drafts are good. Like, to me at least, that feels like a really good reason. The ultimate, it ended up getting changed, but part of the biggest things that were really good for her in terms of her usability weren't changed at all. Arctic Burn is still an amazing zoning ability. You've still got Splinter Blast, which counter pushes better than almost anything else in the game. 340 damage nuke on a 7-second cooldown. And then Cold Embrace is still ridiculously good in terms of its ability to keep you off and keep heroes alive against physical damage. So they also don't have something like Sunstrike to be able to really abuse that, you know, holding still. So I think that Winter Wyvern is a pretty great hero here. And they go back for the Alp. My goodness.
The Wyvern ulti is actually still pretty good. Like, it's underrated. It's with the OD, even if you're not dealing damage, you keep stealing int when you attack the person who's ulti, so that's pretty cool. It's also just good to set up for the Slaughter Stomp, but yeah, we should talk about the Alchemist. And I'm not even sure. This is strange to me. This is really strange to me. I did mention that they might run the OD safe lane and the Sang Olsen mid, but Ben Hur has been sort of outplaying Tihi in every game in the series. He's had some help sometimes, but he's been winning the lanes on his own, and suddenly they put into a position where, like, Alchemist is not a hero that wins the mid lane by outplaying its opponent. It's kind of like a just sit and farm, and sometimes you annoy them with acid, but it doesn't really shut the enemy hero out.
10 seconds.
So it's a totally different approach.
Well, I guess that this to me feels like it's a response to the Jakiro. We have been seeing Mineski occasionally get Alchemist banned out against them, but it's kind of a unique little interaction there. I think that I mean, obviously it's a hero that if you get it off to a good start, you're going to be having a wonderful time. there aren't really great Aghanim Scepter upgraded ultimates in this game either, so it feels like they're very much just sort of picking this hero for his quick scalability, and we'll see what he ends up building into. We'll do a quick introduction, though. It looks like TNC are going to be moving in. Again, it's going to be AU who's going to be playing the Enchantress, Raven is going to be the Juggernaut, Teehee on the Jakiro, Winter G Small Sun on the Vengeful Spirit, and last but not least, Sam, who's going to be playing the Lone Druid.
Yeah, on the other side there's Ben-Hur playing Alchemist. Ben-Hur's done really well in the series so far. We haven't seen him play Alchemist yet though, and committing all his gold at the start. There's Jesse Vash running it around in the Bounty Hunter trying to scout the smoke gank. Jules will be the Winter Wyvern. Lorelei is going to be the carry Outworld Devourer, and of course in the offlane Raging Potatoes Slaughter. But I like the facts for TNC that they've made this Lone Druid an offlane of this game. I was worried for a second when they picked up the Juggernaut that it would be Teehee's mid-Juggernaut, which is where they usually do run the hero, and I think that would have been a disaster, a really bad mistake for this game. Good that they kept him on the Jakiro, and it's a nice mix-up that they've got the Lone Druid in the offlane. They've 3 out of 4 games so far in the series. Wait, 3 out of 4? What am I talking about? There's 2 out of 3, sorry. 2 out of 3 games in the series so far, the Lone Druid has been on their team, and it's been their carry position, and I think it actually puts a bit more pressure on you if that's the case. If Raven's the Lone Druid player, then that sort of timing window before he becomes online is much more pressure. Whereas if it's for your offlaner, it almost feels like it's like an extra bonus. And sure, they switch up the lanes, he's going to the safe lane, but it doesn't really change the dynamic that you've got this Juggernaut who's going to be farming and have an impact independently, same as the Jakiro, and that's independent of if the Lone Druid gets to his item quickly or not.
Yeah. Wow, and you see right here from the very start, you know, we're talking about Teehee and his ability to play this Jakiro and do it often. They're really, really committing heavily to messing with him, and they're somewhat able to do this because you see up top that, you know, Raging Potato against the Lone Druid, that's a pretty okay match, and then Odie is able to, I think, lane fairly effectively against the Juggernaut, as long as he's not slowed down. Like, even if, you know, the Blade Fury damage does start to come out, there's always the option to, like, maybe self-astral yourself, potentially. It's not the best option in the world, but it's these types of things that could end up working. But I don't know. Can Jakiro punish an Alchemist enough?
I mean, I think he can put a lot of pressure on him, and I think that's why I was just trying to figure out, because the Alchemist did get the bounty in, right? Yeah. And I think he completed a poor man shield with that gold. He didn't go for the early bottle. I mean, he had already invested in the start and the Quelling Blade, so wouldn't have been able to. But that's kind of answers that question. You know, he goes for the poor man shield because he definitely thinks he respects the Jakiro's ability to harass him.
He's going backwards afterwards also now for the boots. Those are going to be coming next for him. Worth noting, AU is going to maybe think about going for a gank right now. Boots are going to be on their way, so this is going to help him survive a little bit, but needs to make sure the courier doesn't end up getting sniped. They're wrapping around behind. I don't know if they're going to be able to catch it. They're going to move. It's not quite within range, and it looks like, oh, they can actually throw the net on it, so it does catch it. The courier is going to go down, and then also in the mid lane, Ben here taking a lot of damage. Oh my goodness, the net from afar onto the courier.
Yeah, so game starting well for TNC. They're the ones that get the courier snipe for a change. They're the ones getting more CS in the mid lane for a change. Obviously that dynamic's slightly different because Alchemist with less CS gets like more gold than you anyway. But for me, the mid lane story has not been about Ben-Hur gets so much. It's been about TNC gets so little. Teehee in particular, and if his game's going well, it's really just like the team's feels confidence and their timings work, and they're gonna have this kind of backup Lone Druid in this game, which is being harassed by the Bounty Hunter, who's on his last win Shadow Walk at the moment, and will probably have to leave the jungle after that. But the Juggernaut's doing really well in the aggressive lane as well, because obviously the supports of Mineski have been committed elsewhere.
Yeah, well, and it makes sense. I will say also now they've got kind of a big creep wave that's coming in here. They only got the single pull, which means it's going to be a double wave that moves on out and should be pushing this fairly quickly. Again, you know, Jules is back in the area, does have Arctic Burn available, but doesn't want to commit it for nothing. The courier is about to be able to respawn in just another minute as Bounty Hunter ends up denying himself to the neutrals. So just wants to make sure that he gets back to the lane that much more quickly, and everything fairly hunky-dory at the moment. We didn't see any courier snipes coming out for Bounty Hunter himself.
Yeah, it took quite long actually though. He was like 4 HP, he had to go stand and tank ancients for a long time, and he's not yet level 2. This is actually a Bounty Hunter that I think is maybe slightly behind where he wants to be at this stage, especially for the game they're trying to play. He's sort of their plan for pressuring the early game. It's not really about the mid laner doing well on his own this time, and it's actually going to be a Soul Ring pickup for Banho, which is a bit of an old school pickup for the Alchemist that people used to go just to get that acid spam, ulti spam permanently going all game. And I sort of expect they'll make stacks for him.
I kind of like, you see right now Jakiro, he's been dropped very, very low, and he's almost out of regen. He actually is out of regen. And I think that this is just sort of the constant pressure and having to tank creeps. I mean, he does have 3 armor, but, you know, he's not a melee hero with a stout shield. So because of that, he does take a decent chunk of damage. But now with this bottle, he's probably going to be able to sustain that much more quickly and that much more readily. But man, Arcane Rune actually out on the acid spray. That is frustrating to deal with.
Yeah, that's like pretty much permanent acid spray, right? Yeah, that's permanent acid spray. As long as he has mana for it, but he's got a Soul Ring coming in, so for the duration of, I mean, Arcane Rune's gonna run out pretty soon. It's not really that big of a deal, but it's kind of nice to look at the numbers.
Totally. Well, and he is going to end up dropping it down again onto these creeps over here, and so uses that for the last little bit of its ability. Again, TNC are rotating around. They've got several different disables here. It doesn't look like they're going to be able to catch that career, but Raging Potato might be the one that ends up going down. Is going to run into absolutely everybody. Goes for the crush. It's going to be able to connect, and oh god, actually is going to end up maybe going down here. He was able to, oh, so he held it. Kind of cool move there. I guess that was just baiting out the stomp from the Centaur?
Yeah, I think that TNC stacked the nets and the Venge stun a little bit. They're worried about the crash, but ended up stacking a bit too much. And I think if they don't stack at all between their 3 disables, they probably make the kill.
Yeah.
They're gonna pressure the tower now though. They need to get some value. Whoa.
Oh, they ended up being able to kill off the Alchemist there, but it looks like he's coming close to maybe going down himself. No more hits there. They turn around with the Liquid Fire. Actually, a good amount of damage onto Jesse Vash. It was just that DOT, and again, just making things a little bit scary. Up here in the top lane, they end up being able to take down the tier 1 tower, and now net down as well. They're going to throw out stun coming out from the Venge, and they catch the one from a little bit further away, kills off the bear, and actually is able to wand up and just escape. Really nicely played. A quick collection of moves end up being able to score the Slardar a little bit of goal to go in his direction.
Still, I think this is a good start to the game for TNC. I think they're very much in their comfort zone, and the games that they've lost in this series are the ones where they got pushed out of their comfort zone early on, and I think that they'll be able to play on their own timings this game, and this is probably gonna probably not be a dead Alchemist. I don't know, there's a level 3 spin, he's got his ulti on, might just be too tanky.
Oh, Cold Embrace, that was nice. They're going to have the Arctic Burn here, but again, he's still slowed out, drops down the Acid Spray. They throw on out the Healing Ward. They need to kill that off before it ends up just being able to bring him back up to full HP. And yeah, it doesn't look like they want to fight in the Acid Spray.
Yeah, Juggernaut not level 6 yet, unfortunately, and that's what I want to say. The rotation away by TNC, the cost is that they leave Juggernaut 1v1 vs OD, which is actually not really a lane the hero can take. So it doesn't matter that much that he ran off the lane to try and make a kill and failed to make it, because if he was in the lane he wouldn't be doing that much right now anyway.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned the stacks there as well. They are going to start to be able to take these, and you can see Alchemist's net worth. It's a hero that farms very, very rapidly, probably just about the fastest in the game right now. Bounty Hunter rotating again, still stuck at level 2, but he does manage to get off the courier kill, so nicely played there. And that was actually going to be 2 Robe of the Magi's coming out towards TE, going for that early Veil. A little bit unfortunate.
Yeah, so the game plan for TNC is to get a bunch of towers early. They want in the next 10 minutes or so to clear all the tier 1s and hopefully a tier 2 even, at least one. And that's going to be sort of the challenge for Mineski to hold back that particular timing. But they're doing a good job. Bounty Hunter's again gone back to harassing the lone druid in the jungle, who himself is getting pretty close to Hand of Midas. And remember, he, again, as I said, he's a bit of a backup plan in this game. It's not like all in lone druid, he must do his timing for us to win. It's more like just an extra bonus that as they're pushing, they get extra gold, they accelerate the lone druid's farm, and all of a sudden he gets a Radiance later on. That's almost like, that marks the we've done it, guys, well done.
No, I would agree that it feels like it's almost like an insurance policy to some extent, and you know, even if they don't manage to push on down all those towers, as you said, is sort of their objective, it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. So it kind of cuts both ways, that it's both not important for him to get a ton because he's going to be able to fall back on the push, but also the push doesn't have to happen because he can kind of fall back upon the lone druid, as long as they don't like start to lose towers of their own. But the Slardar blink now, they're going to need to be careful. Mineski is still scouting this all out, and Jules is in the area. The 2 points Splinter Blast for the moment. Do you think that they come and try and contest this at all, or do they just try and take other towers or other objectives on the map?
They're not going to contest it. They're going to look to get space for the OD and wait to kill whoever TP's mid. Hoping one hero TP's mid, Slaughter can just wrap around with the bounty answer, and with the OD damage they'll just destroy that hero. But I think TNC just keep pushing. That's the thing about Jakiro, that's why they prefer it as a pushing hero. This is a hero that's... Normally when you push towers it takes multiple waves. Jakiro, you bring the rest of your team, one creep wave and the tower dies, because the tower's not really doing much to defend itself, and the creeps aren't going to do enough on their own. Like, normally when you're pushing towers, the towers protect themselves quite well early on.
Yeah. Raging Potato gonna get slowed down a little bit. Again, they do have that Splinter Blast, which is fairly decent, but actually, Winter Small GG in a little bit of trouble now. Is gonna get chased around. They are still gonna be able to do a lot of damage there. Sandy's Eclipse drops on down, was able to do a decent chunk of damage, and Chase goes get forward. They are gonna be able to catch now onto Raven, and he's gonna fall. So 2 dead, the price of a decent chunk of damage on the tower, but not sure if it's completely worth it. What is
No Man's Land as well? Like he's in a dangerous position, but he is an Enchantress, and looks like the lack of damage on the enemy team is just like, even if they blink and stomp him, very difficult to deal that damage to him. Although it is noteworthy that AU's got the max enchant build as a support Enchantress and hasn't gone full max untouchable, so they might not think that they can kill him, but it might be a bit easier.
Yeah, there's the possibility that they actually could be able to. Well, yeah, they did end up playing that Slardar with the Tranquils into the Blink build, which I like it a lot. Jesse Bash, meanwhile, is going to take a little bit of damage here again. He's like keeps walking into these liquid fires. It's actually almost going to kill him. Jakiro just does so much damage right now, and got to be so careful when they step up to him. I'll also say that, you know, when we talked about this game and the way that it needed to go, we talked about Jules having to get those levels up, and right now the Splinter Blast is decent. It's 180 mana, but they don't have the ability to consistently cast it, and it's not enough damage to kill the creep wave yet. So they don't quite have all of the tools online as of yet to be able to hold high ground.
Yeah, I like that the Lone Druid is getting involved in the push, by the way. Like, even though we talk about him being a backup plan, slowly farming towards this thing, it's something that there's a lot of Lone Druids that sort of believe in the philosophy of all you do is farm until you get your Radiance, and recently I think some of the better Lone Druids in all of the regions and the pro scene have been showing that actually you can get involved just with your levels, just with your leveled Spirit Bear. You can make kills, you can kill towers, and it's sort of part of your farming progression actually.
Yeah. Well, it looks like they are going to pay the price of this bear going down here. They get the Savage Roar off, but we'll be able to still mess around with it a little bit. They kill the Courier by the Bounty Hunter, but it wasn't anything that was really significant that was taken away. It's also worth noting that they're still kind of chasing over here. They get the resummon on the bear, and Enchantress is in the area also. But the hero that was conspicuously missing throughout all that was the Alchemist, and he just now finishes off his Radiance. He is in a pretty decent position. 11-minute Radiance is pretty freaking good for even an Alchemist.
Yeah, and TNC are going to go for the rush, and Mineski know full well what's going on. They're going to smoke there, and this could be very early on a pretty decisive fight.
It looks like they spotted it with their ward, but they're still going to get the catch on to Teehee. He's in a little bit of trouble. Jakiro does not want to get taken out here. The Centaur stun, keeping him alive for the moment. There's going to be the catch. The Sanity's Eclipse comes down. No mana on these guys. Now the Radiance burn as well. Sam gets stunned up there by the unstable concoction. It looks like Raging Potato is still chasing, looking for the Jug. Are they going to be able to catch him? They are going to be able to kill off Sam, but it looks like they're going to have to let the Jug go. So 2 are dead right there, and you know, we talked about the laning prowess that we saw, but suddenly Mineski are looking really good.
Yeah, and Ben-Hur is looking really good in particular, and honestly, he's the story of the series so far. Ben-Hur has just been, even in the game they lost, he's been dumpstering Teehee. Teehee's meant to be, I can't say it enough times that this guy expects everything to just go his way, and it's been not the Teehee show, but the Ben-Hur show. And Alchemist in this current game, what better hero to like highlight like, hey, this game's about me, than the hero that like has an unfair advantage to just like get extra gold and look incredible.
I mean, he's got 9,200 right now, and doesn't feel like he's ever gonna have to stop. Like he kind of, I mean, he didn't even upgrade into tread, just went straight for that Radiance, and going to be able to start taking down these other creep waves. They're pinging out again that Roshan is going down. It looks like they're maybe thinking about coming to contest again. Do you think it's worth it even without the Sanity's Eclipse?
No, I don't think they should come. I actually think that for TNC getting the rush is not even that big of a deal. Like, part of the whole Alchemist pick here, even though it looks like, oh, it's a greedy Alchemist, he Rash Radiance, spamming Acid Spray makes it really difficult for the enemy team to push, to be honest. They've got the Splinter Blast from the Winter Wyvern, and they've got the Acid Spray, so sure, you get an Aegis in TNC, but this is not going to be, we've got our Aegis, we're grouping up, we get your racks. It's really not going to be that easy for TNC to do what they want to do.
Well, we're going to have to see what the plan is. At this point in time, it definitely feels like something's got to give, something's got to change, and Alchemist is building towards that Yasha. I will say also that I kind of like the idea of the Alchemist against these, you know, grouping up and push lineups that involve other creeps too, because not necessarily is going to be able to kill off the Enchantress creeps very easily, but you know, potentially there's the opportunity there for a little bit more gold, depending upon how it goes. It's not quite as good as like a Nature's Prophet, but still pretty decent. And now Track is online too. Oh man, this is where things start to get pretty freaking scary. I think Track already onto 2. The Shuriken is going to bounce as well onto the 3rd that they managed to get off. There's the 4-staff forward, aggressive. T did end up getting caught out of position. Really well played there by Mineski to pull him over that direction. And now there's going to be the Winter's Curse is down. They're still stealing away all of that mana, and the Shurikens are still bouncing. They're all 3 of them tracked up. Alchemist is chasing. He's going to be able to catch there onto Sam, doing a ton of damage, and they end up getting a crush and looking for a little bit more. Can they find it though? Not as of yet. Lone Druid goes down. Oh my goodness.
It's the beginning of the end, and if you look at the Lone Druid, he's decided, look at his stash, he's decided actually I'm going to rush Vlad's. Like, the Radiance timing's not going to work, but we saw this in previous games in the series where TNC start going, okay, we need to all in on items right now and just try and win the game. It's the recognition that the plan is not working, we're running out of time, our window's closing. I think it might already be closed, to be honest. Like, look how big the Alchemist is. He's like richer than their 2 most farmed heroes put together.
And only the 1 point. They're going to be able to. Oh god, he 4 steps away from the Omni Slash. Oh no, that really hurts. And AU is just going to end up getting right click down. You talked about it there, only the 1 point and untouchable. She's not as tanky as you would normally be, and now they've caught Teehee as well. There's going to be the stun onto him. The right clicks are there as well. He's just going to go down. So much gold going the direction of Mineski, and the Vengeful Spirit dies. It's all going downhill. Bear is going to be dead. Resummon, not for another 100 seconds. Oh, wow.
It's looking closer and closer to saying that Mineski have punched their ticket to ESL One Manila, and TNC's dreams are dying as every moment passes. It's like, honestly, both of the games of Mineski won were very, very one-sided. The game that they lost was one-sided to a point, and then TNC had their timing and we're fine. But this game is just not set up in that way. TNC are set up to have the early timings. They're not set up to eventually hit their timing and turn things around. And this is feeling a lot more like game 1 and 3, where Mineski just controlled the game from the beginning. And even though this game, out of all the games, is the one where Teehee got as much freedom as he wanted, he got freedom on a Jakiro, which is not, I mean, this is the one hero he plays where his freedom is not that important. Normally when he's playing his mid-PL, mid-Juggernaut, those sorts of heroes, he gets freedom, then he's controlling the game, and he's carrying. But we saw it here. I mean, Teehee's the guy running up the ramp with an Aegis thinking, oh, we'll just push, and gets burst down twice in a row. Really looking, you know, like there's not much bark in his bites. Or wait, sorry, that would, you know what I mean.
I'm sure it's fine. I think right now also it harkens back to the probably a good amount at least the that was 500 gold for that bounty rune, by the way, OS Frog. But yeah, it harkens back to the idea sort of knowing your enemy and knowing what they're going to come at you with. And to me, this looks like a well-executed draft that identified what it was that TNC was going to want to bring at them, and Mineski they're so prepared throughout every game of this series. Like, it's not necessarily that you can say that either side was playing bad in either of these games. There was probably a couple of outdrafts, but more so than that, it was outdrafts by virtue of teams recognizing what was going to be coming at them and then responding to it on both sides. And TNC played some great Dota as well. Not necessarily that this game is over by any means. There's still a possibility for things to turn back around, but it's going to take a whole heck of a lot for Mineski to get knocked out at this stage of the game.
I mean, it's difficult for TNC to even deal with Alchemist's illusions. Never mind his hero at this stage, and he's like almost got the Octarine as well. I wonder if Mineski, I don't actually know. I wonder if they have coaching staff, because you know the owner of Mineski, Kanchi, is the person who was coaching Fnatic at the major. So presumably he could just coach his own team. You know, it's like And that certainly could help. I know that it helped out a lot for Fanatics at the Shanghai Major.
Yeah. Well, and that's sort of been all the rage recently, is talking about coaches and their role within the Dota 2 scene. It's certainly proven to be working pretty well, and if you've got, a manager and person involved in the organization who is a coach in more than one ways, it probably is going to help you out a lot. And again, even though it didn't end up working out a ton, I'm loving to see a Winter Wyvern get a couple of victories and points in the win column, because it's a hero that I feel like is undervalued for what it brings to the table. And even though it didn't help out a ton in this game, it's worth seeing every now and then on a winning team.
Oh, Winter Wyvern's done its job. It's it's had its place. Honestly,
That's
this
true.
game has been almost too easy for Mineski so far. I feel like, like from the lanes they set up, things have just like progressed smoothly and naturally. They haven't really been hiccups, and there was potential for them to panic when TNC started taking towers, but that's all they really need to do so far, is like not panic and be like, hey, we've got a plan for this, we're doing fine, relax. And it almost feels like going through the motions, like they've done this before on the training grounds, and this, they know everything that's coming.
Well, there's definitely something to be said for that, particularly if you're a team that, knows each other very well and knows everybody's play style. You see a certain thing, you realize how you need to counter it, and then you go to work, you execute it. And, this is potentially, if they end up being able to win this game, Mineski's ticket to the, their ability to be the lone person coming from the Philippine squad. They had their own qualifiers. They're going to be able to move into the ESL One and, potentially pave the legacy for the major that's going to follow soon afterwards. I'm super excited for the tournament. We're going to see if they're going to be able to make it happen here for themselves, as they're pushing down this bottom lane and maybe waiting for Roshan, but maybe even just thinking that they want to try and go for it now instead. Do you think you just wait for Roche at this stage?
I mean, this is exactly like last game. Mineski are in no rush. Like, they can just keep farming and they're going to get more and more ahead. There's literally zero chance that TNC can get back into the game by farming. And so Mineski are just saying, you know what, your move. Come run at us again like you did last game. Because that's the ideal situation for Mineski, is TNC much weaker than them, try and force something, lose out, and then Mineski don't even have to, it's really nice when you push the enemy team's high ground once they've served them to you and died. You don't even have to like think about all the normal difficulties of breaching the high ground. So that's...
By the way, I think that Alchemist here has almost more net worth than the next three heroes for TNC. It's pretty close.
TNC's entire net worth is 29,000, so their whole team is only slightly more than him.
Oh my goodness.
If this game lasts another 5 or 6 minutes, like I think he could overtake the whole TNC. I think that's definitely possible.
Alchemist is pretty good. I mean, he does what he needs to do. They're going to be able to catch here under the Enchantress. It's just going to get completely and totally obliterated. Alchemist, meanwhile, shows up. He's going to stun himself in the face of all competition and show that he's not afraid to take one on the chin for his team. Tier 2 tower is about to go down here in just a second as the right clicks are going for him, and they're ready to continue the pressure up. You got Force Staff, you got Blink, everything that you could potentially want in this Slardar. You got Bounty Hunter here with the track gold just to give him extra, net worth, because why not?
Why does Slaughter have an Aether Lens? Is that for Blink? Is that why?
Blink, longer distance, you can cast amplified damage. I think that's about it.
It doesn't make you force further, but it lets you force things from further away. So if you want to force someone else, that's... But usually Slaughter forces himself. So.
It's not a good item, I don't think, on this hero. I think that they're styling on TNC at this point. This is sort of the get out of my game item. We've had enough of your shenanigans at this point. That's kind of what it feels like Raging Potato is saying to them at this stage. They are going to have the bear walk up to the high ground there, Hand of Midas in hand, and unfortunately did have to go back to the Vlads as we talked about. I guess items right now for the Alk, what would you love? Oh, he's already got an AC. My goodness.
Yeah, and he's closed the gap another 5k between him and all of TNC. He's at 25k, TNC's about 30k at the moment. So just 5,000 gold before he overtakes the whole enemy team.
And that's something that you can take with like the barracks going down. It's not hard to make that work. They sit down in the healing ward trying to see if Roche was there, but it's not up.
The rest of his team is also like 25k. So it's kind of like if Alchemist was taken completely out of the game, went AFK in the fountain, then the game is about even. It's like there's 3 teams here. There's Alchemist, his teammates, and then there's TNC.
Oh my God, Mineski, they are so freaking farmed up on all these heroes, and it doesn't feel like there's really. I mean, what did TNC do in this stage? Do you try and go for a smoke gank? Like, do you have to wait until amplified damage is off of you before you go for a smoke gank? What would be your play here for them?
I mean, I would guess that they're sitting on their team speak. The mood is pretty bad. They're like all feeling a bit depressed, trying to keep their spirits up, just sort of praying that something works. Because we saw last game, the play is not to try and force your way in with a fight that you can't possibly win. But they also don't have pick-off potential, and they also don't have a way to farm back into the game because they're against Alchemist. They're completely deadlocked out of the game, and they have to somehow wait for Mineski to make huge mistakes and just be ready for them. But Mineski, like they did last game, just wait for the Aegis, and now it's like Alchemist can stand in front of the Aegis, and you know, if you capitalize on him being out of position or whatever, he still has an Aegis. He could easily buy back, he could TP and he could have 3 lives. I don't think there is a play for TNC.
Well, they're going to move forward at least, and Alchemist starting to hit away at their buildings. As you said, he can just sort of stand here unencumbered for the moment, the rest of his team behind him. Now, if they've got the counter initiation, they can go for it if they want with the Winter Wyvern, but the stun's going to come out. There's the Yule's Scepter. Ice Path going to connect as well. A decent chunk of damage, but he's still healing back up so quickly. Cold Embrace, Octarine Core Heals, and everything else on top of it. Jump forward, BKB popped immediately, and oh my god, Odie is doing so much damage. Not quite able to kill off the Juggernaut, though. They did end up being able to take down the Vengeful Spirit. It looks like they might be able to make this work. Doesn't quite hit there on the stun onto Sam, but still so much damage from the Odie and the Alchemist. There's going to be the Winter's Curse committed onto Raven. That's just going to keep him in place for a moment, though. AU dropped him low as well. They do manage to kill him off, and everybody is dying from TNC. That's a TP away for the Juggernaut. He is heading into the jungle. He doesn't want to be here anymore. Get away from me, he says, as he lets his tier 3 tower and the barracks fall. They're just trying to push out that lane as quickly as they can, but that's not going to keep the creeps out of their base, and they're going for tier 4s. They don't even care at this stage. It's actually Ben-Hur is going to pick up something else. They go for the 4-staff forward. They're having fun at this stage. That's going to end up being Necro Books level 3. They summon them, then they put them back in the stash, and this is going to be a tier 4 tower and soon to be the game. Unfortunately, it looks like TNC are going to get knocked out, but fortunately for Mineski fans, this means that they are potentially, if they end up being able to win this next little engagement here, your champions for the Filipino squad. They end up throwing there with a stun onto the Vengeful Spirit, a whole heck of a lot of damage. The Omni Slash is out, but it's honestly not enough, and GG does finally get called. They killed off the Winter Wyvern in a blaze of glory, and they managed to take it here. So congratulations to Mineski, your Filipino qualifiers champions. They're going to be moving on to the LAN. A pretty cool story for them.
And this match was not close. This game is like a good place for it to end. If you only just tuned in now, this game represents the series pretty well. TNC did win a game, but honestly, the overall match, the 3-1 win for Mineski, it's comprehensive. I think they completely figured out TNC. They read them like a book. They knew what they were trying to do.